will you handle it? So I can't escape any of them. Well, first and foremost, the truth was that at the time the Executive Council took that decision, His Excellency the President had not announced my name as the Sports Minister designate.
Okay.
Following the announcement, I have had some engagement with persons who were within the sports, the transitional team, who were working in sports-related areas. None of them has indicated to me of their involvement, approach by the Executive Council in relation to whether the head coach must stay or not stay, and who is being added or not being added. I am yet to speak to the Chief of Staff directly to find out, because he was one of the first persons to be announced by His Excellency the President as an officer, that if they were taking any such decision, since we didn't have ministers designated, if they didn't want to deal with the transitional team also, at least the Chief of Staff was available. So I will be engaging the Chief of Staff to find out whether there was any engagement with him at all, and when they had the engagement, what his answers were. That is, if they did have an engagement. I haven't done that. But then, you are right. It's the state that pays the coach, the head coach, and even if you have to have assistants and then other persons, the state that pays. If the state is the one that is going to pay, and you say you are the one supposed to run it, then the one going to pay, who will not be part of the running as per the rules, that the way you interpret the rules, must have an interest in who he or she is going to be paying, because that is the only point you can have a say. If I'm the one that is going to pay you, and I'm not going to have an influence over how you run your staff, but somebody else will do, but I need to have an interest, because I'm going to be spending money to pay you, then at the time you are being hired, I must have my say. And if I check and that say was not given, and the one going to make the payment seems not satisfied with what has happened, then there will be room for a level of what? Review, whether to capacitate the team as it is, or to even remove some persons that you feel may be square pegs in a hole that is round, or round pegs in a hole that is squared, because no matter what, it may go in, but it will leave some species that others can take advantage of. So I've had engagement, unofficial engagement, with the president of the FA. Currently, I know he's not in town. Yesterday, he sent some of his officials, the vice, to be present at the vetting. I do know that so far our engagement has been very respectful with to each other, and when they do come down, but I'm sure by the time he's back, I would have been given my appointment officially, yes, and I can have the capacity to begin to have official engagement, and this matter will surely be discussed, so that whatever answers that I get, what needs to be shared will be shared.
In line with that, we don't know the details of Otoado's contract and how much he's earning, so we would appreciate if of course, if it can be given publicly, the people of Ghana would want to know. Gary,
but as a follow-up to that, it's very interesting that you explained how the appointment should work in such a situation as we find ourselves, making clear that as the body or as the person, I'm personalizing, the sports ministry, who pays the salary of the FA, there should have been a certain level
head coach, the salary
of the head coach. There should have been a certain level of consultation, and so you ask the chief of staff. Now, in the last few days, the FA has gone on to announce significant additions to the backroom staff of the Black Stars. That is, Winfried Schafer is in, and a couple of others have been added. These people must have been engaged, contracts must have been signed, amounts must have been agreed. Now, you are here as minister designate. In a few days, you will become substantive. If you find out that these talks have not been made or done with the chief of staff, what are the options available to you? And do they include telling the FA that you did not tell me, and so I don't have 2 cedis to pay to Winfried Schafer? As for Tuado's money, it has been agreed long ago, so we can't touch that. But Winfried Schafer is not a slouch, even if he's being paid $5,000 a month, and your budget is only $2,000, and that's what you might have agreed. What available remedies would you pursue?
Well, like you said, I'm sure the FA itself, in going into these appointments and agreements whatsoever, if they have done so with all these persons, would have to have this at the back of their minds, that we yearn so hard to qualify for a competition, for that matter, because it doesn't speak well that the African continent will meet at the football level, and Ghana is not participating. Our flag is not going to be flying. It doesn't speak well of us. So the next available competition that we don't want to mix is the World Cup. So all of us, I believe, maybe including even the FA itself, that is their wish. But this wish should not lead us into doing stuff that will not help us. My boss used to have a saying that sometimes you may be digging for something, or digging and digging and digging, and that something is not at where you are digging. You must get to a point where you say you have to stop digging. Because you can't continue just digging and digging and the thing is not there. So where we are digging, is it the case that that is where it is? So we continue digging. Maybe you were told that if you dug about 20 meters down, you will find it. You have dug 40 meters, you haven't found it. And you still want to dig further to 60 meters. When the item you are looking for cannot be found that deep, there should be something wrong somewhere. So I truly would be having the engagement. In the unofficial engagement with the president, he did mention the strengthening of the technical team of the Stars. But again, all these things had happened. I'm sure it's just the announcement that became public recently, but they had happened before I was kind of like announced. But there's room for engagement. If what Schafer is going to give us can be found here and will cost us less, is it possible to do that? If what he's been offered is too high for us in terms of our budget and we can negotiate to bring it further down, does the contract give room for that to happen? We seriously would have to be reviewing all those stuff, and we're going to be forthright. We're going to be forthright. Yes, we want to qualify. We want to do everything humanly possible from the side of government to make sure that we qualify. We'll do everything humanly possible. But in doing everything humanly possible, we must not also end up spending resources in a way that we could have saved it for other sports, as we are talking about the need to support other sports also, some of which have also won us medals at the international and world level. So I can assure you that our engagement, one of the first engagements I'm going to have in with the FA officially, will be looking at these things. Because don't forget, we have a qualifying...
Would that engagement include the future of Otto Addo? Because the general consensus from a lot of the sporting public is that he should not stay. His output in terms of the AFCON qualifiers really poor, and a lot of people want to see the back of him. Will that engagement include Otto Addo's possible stay or exit? And what will you base a decision on?
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of comment about the
honorable
otherwise.
the microphone.
I've heard a lot of comments about his stay or non-stay, and I must say it's a matter of concern.
You're locked onto Sporty 106.1 FM.
This concern of stay or not stay is not just coming from the non-playing body. That's what, for me, is of great concern to me. Not just the fans that are talking, but the engagement I've had, it goes beyond that to even the playing body. And some members of the association, current and former, who have significant say in how our sports is run. So it's of great concern. And I want to leave it at great concern because we'll be having engagement. I don't want to make a pronouncement because you are now going to have engagement. And what I'm saying is that these matters that have been raised have not been raised only by fans or sports analysts and enthusiasts like you persons. It's been also raised from even the playing body. At least one or two has come to my attention. So it's
from the playing body of the Black Stars.
So it's come to my attention.
Hey, honorable.
So we will discuss
it.
Sometimes it may also be you see, in every industry there's the psychology of it. And I'll tell you a story. We went into the 2016 elections as a political party, and we didn't make it. I was the national organizer. I coordinated those campaigns. I did an effective coordination. Some parts of the process didn't work well for us, so we lost. It wasn't like I wasn't a very good organizer or a coordinator. But when I analyzed the whole situation and I realized that, one, we needed the best candidate we have to push in our immediate election was our current president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. What action should we take to engender confidence in the followers that something different will be done at the national level, even if you have to do it and support from behind the scene to create the necessary atmosphere for that victory? What should be done? If I stayed on, every other person stayed on. Sometimes the followers and the supporters may think that, oh, say, adada fona no mu hodia, and ye then NC. So there was a need for some of us to give way. So fresh entry will come in, and psychologically it does something for the base. And when their hearts and minds are together, that, oh, with this we can make it, that alone gives some level. Don't you hear the team say, if we are training, come around, because it helps them. If we are playing, come around, it helps them. But if you're doing all these things and people are not showing, it's like, oh, we don't, forget about them, forget. It even affects your performance. It can be very negating. So we would look at all these, whether keeping or not keeping, which one helps. We have some qualifiers in March. I think about between 19th and 25th of March, we have 2 matches to play, one home and then Chad here, and then we have to go to Madagascar to play them also. We need to win these 2 matches if we truly are ready and preparing to qualify. So all these discussions will have to happen as soon as it's possible, so we can take our steps forward.
You're still listening to Sporty 106.1 FM. We are the voice of sport. We are live in Takrady 102.5, live in Kumasi 91.3 FM. We are live on Facebook, live on X Spaces as well. So you can watch us on Facebook. You can not only listen, but watch the interview. Honorable Kof Adams is here. He's the nominee for the role of...
You know, the thing they do about long speeches they teach us in school is that if you go, sir, then you summarize. So if you just joined us, Mr. Kwao, would you summarize some of the things? What I've got so far, he's talked about majorly reclassifying the sports.
Yes, reclassifying the discipline.
The disciplines into strata. Yes, competitive, recreational. And based on that, it will determine, I believe, what kind of support they will receive, right? He's spoken also about the GFA and about how he has informally engaged the GFA, particularly the FA president, who is not in the country, to the extent that, you know, it's been good, it's been respectful. But he's also mentioned that the appointments the GFA have made in the last few days will be subjected to review to the extent that usually they should tell the ministry that we are engaging this person because of salaried reasons, because the ministry will pay. And so if he checks with the chief of staff and the FA engaged, then that's fine. But if that did not happen, then there is room to relook at what these engagements have been. And then he has just given us the Otuado and the breaking news that it has come to his attention that certain members of the Black Stars are worried about the how good Otuado is and the state of play of the Black Stars and the national team. And based on that, he will engage the FA as well. So if you missed most of the interview, this is what it has been about. And also he gave us some behind the scenes on how the vetting went yesterday.
All the things we didn't see. 054-257-1061. That is the WhatsApp.
Now we want people to ask the question.
I mean, there are some questions, so people can send in their questions.
But this one is Parliament of the People.
It's Parliament of the People. Raymond, you quiet. You are usually not this quiet.
Yeah, he's loading his guns.
I've been listening.
He's been noting things down.
But Honorable
will remember. About 22 years ago, he taught me biology in Adisado College. And we had all sorts of nicknames for him. I'm sure he doesn't know some.
Yesterday, well, you see,
the man who was asking you,
the students, when they give you a name, you see, one trick I always told a lot: when they give you a name and they realize you are so angry at it, then it stays. So because of that, I had a lot of names. They will try this one. I don't really get worried. Then they have to change and see whether as they change, maybe one will touch my name. Even if it's touching my name, I will even expose it for them to know. So there were quite a number of names that they kept giving. Yesterday, one of my students equally asked me the questions. The last one before the minority leader had his bite was also one of my students and they are doing really well. I travel around the world and I find them. You go to South Africa, they are in their numbers. You go to America, they are there. You go to Europe, they are there. In Ghana here, they are doing wonderfully well. And I'm happy. Some of them didn't understand the level of care that we were exhibiting. They thought we were worrying them.
Some of them told me that you were not allowing them to have their
I wouldn't allow you to go beyond. Yes, if we are having our sports and games, that one you are free to go and do it. But beyond that, I want to keep you. At the time you must be with your books, you must be with your books. They didn't love me then, they didn't like me for that. But today when you meet them, a lot of them are happy for the kind of strictness that we brought to bear on them. Because they are young persons who have been brought to us to help model them to become great persons in future.
So, Honorable, we've done a bit of football. Let's shift focus to what we call the least financed sports. Their major problem has been funding. So we go to tournaments, preparation even before Olympic Games is a problem because of funding. They believe that a lot of money goes to the national teams, the senior national team, the Black Stars. If you give them even a quarter of that, they can prepare their athletes well for future competitions and deliver medals for Ghana. What plans do you have for least finance sports? And do you have money to take care of the national teams and take care of the least finance sports as well?
Do we have money? No. Do we have the resources? Yes. Do we have the capacity to be able to mobilize these resources to support all our sports? I think we do. But just that we have not been able to assemble these capacity that we have to mobilize the resources that we have to support these lesser sports. Look, I sit there and realize that sometimes a platform like yours will launch a program and you are able to pull sponsors to come on board to support such a project. Why is it that a whole nation cannot mobilize this same with all the capacity and the strength it has, cannot mobilize these same institutions and companies to pull something together other than what will come directly from the state in the form of the budget releases from the finance ministry to support sports? I think it's doable. And it's all about engagement. Using sometimes tax rebates for persons who would have sponsored sports, because when they do that, you see, sports is an industry that when you invest and invest right, it will become self-financing in the shortest possible time. And you must equally also start it early. If you don't start it early and you allow the person to grow beyond a certain point, it becomes really difficult making much meaning in the investments that you do. And because at the stage you must start, it's not commercially viable for individual interests who also look at the commercial nature of it to come in. That's where the state must lead the way. So we have companies, big ones, that may be willing to come on board. So you have engagement with them, you link them to finance what you describe as the less known. They may be less known in Ghana because of the poor investment that we give to them, but they are major in some other countries. Look, until recently, if you go to America, you talk largely more about the NBA. But they didn't see football as less known. They also began to invest in it. So along the line, football in America has become also just like what? The NBA of then. So we can also do it. And it's just a matter of investment, directing it, getting the institutions, bodies that are willing to support, link them up, that take up this number of sports, and then give direct investment in there. Again, if the NSA is made to play its role, you see, there are times when the state release funding for the FA, for like Black Stars or other national football teams. Not everything that is released that gets spent. And if there is proper scrutiny and proper accountability, some savings could be made, and that saving, if redirected to other sports, can actually help them even without going to get other bodies to even come on board. So we seriously will be looking at the utilization of whatever is released for our senior teams, and if we perform and utilize up to a certain point, what is left? How can we use it? Is it the case that because you presented a budget to the management, if take Sporty FM presents a budget for a program, maybe we are going to cover the vetting of the minister designate for sports and recreation. So a budget is prepared, monies are released. You go there and you were given 10 CD, but you ended up spending maybe 6 CD to do the entire activity. When you return, are you supposed to account for the 6 CD and return the 4 CD to check so it can be used for other things? Or you say, well, because I did the budget and I was given 10 CD, the remaining 4 CD, we go share them. We can't at this stage possibly do that. We need to help the other sports. And so if we bring the NSA in as that bridge, then it allows for much more checks and supervision so that we will utilize the surplus that comes from there, because that surplus is big meal for another person. What you think that, have fed myself, I'm satisfied, and then this one is nothing, is actually a 5-star meal for another person. Because I have seen people who go to, sorry to say this, a refuse dump to scramble for what to eat.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if you collected this food from your table and packaged it well for that person. If the person can go to the refuse dump to salvage that thing, if you package it well, then you would have been helping a soul. That's how I say it.
Yeah. Honorable, in the previous parliament, you had the privilege of working on the Public Accounts Committee. And in what you said, following what you said this morning, you have been heavy on accountability. Last year, Ghana hosted the 13th African Games. And there was quite a huge budget for that competition. $195 million on infrastructure. We have the breakdown, 145 for Boteman, 16 million for Games Village, 34 million for UG Stadium. Then
15 million for feeding.
50 million for feeding athletes, 4.5 million for games management.
Yes. We are coming there.
4.5 million for games management, 3 million for TV broadcast rights. All of these issues have come up, but we haven't had closure to some of these matters. Will you be interested in opening an inquiry into how those monies were expended?
Well, if I don't do this, then I would have done a lot of disservice, not just to sports, but Ghana. It's important for us to go into this because a lot of issues have come up. Even sometimes some persons who allow their facilities to be used to host some of these teams have been out there complaining.
I know several hotels.
Yeah, hotels that are complaining that they've not been paid and what have you. So if we don't do this, this is not just about even sports, but this is about Ghana. And this is about some persons' businesses. And so we really must look into it. Because if you don't, you would have been creating an atmosphere where tomorrow another person will repeat same and will not get value for money. So we would have to look into it. I can assure you that we're going to look into it.
Before your predecessor took office, there was also the issue of the Australian visa scandal, when journalists were deported from Australia on their way to cover the Gold Coast competition. Indeed, it was held that some were not credible journalists. The former minister promised us he was going to disclose the report, or he was going to present the report to the public. As we speak, again, we haven't had closure to that matter. Would you do us the honor of making that report public so that we know who was culpable, who was responsible, who needed to be punished and was not punished, and who had to be set free? Would you do us that?
Well, sure, I will request for the report, and I will look into the report, and in whatever form it is, if it's a report that can be released. Since the former minister promised, it meant that it's not a report that was intended to be kept as an internal report. And so I would look at it, and then I'll make sure that it is out there. If a good work wasn't done, and there's a need to go into that matter again, we will deal with it. Because, you see, we are selling a nation. And for the sake of all of us and our future, when things like that happen, we have to go into them and assure the Committee of Nations that Ghana would not be allowed to be used for anything that is untoward. Once you don't deal with that issue, for them to know that persons involved have been punished, next time when you are even sending genuine persons, they sometimes will reserve a right to refuse them.
Yeah.
And in order to deal with that, you punish those who are involved if they have to be punished, and make that known to the world that you saw that action as wrong so that in future, when you are requesting for such a service or honor to be done you, it will be done you and done expeditiously. But when you don't do anything about it, they think that you connive in that act, and so possibly what you are requesting again is part of the connivance. And it's for that very reason of sometimes visa racketeering that I was talking about, reclassification of the federations and associations, and to make sure that you demonstrate a certain performance locally before you will come to apply to go and partake in any competition beyond our shores. Some haven't done anything at all. The next thing you hear about them is coming to apply that they are going. And if they are sending maybe 14-member team, you may be lucky to have half been real athletes or performers. Another half is fake. And you would find them, they get there, either they don't partake, or when the person is partaking, you clearly will ask whether this person really went through any competitive process to be selected to go and perform at that level. So we want to really do things in a way that when you ask for such favors, even at all times, a nation will respond to Ghana. So honor must be brought to bear in what we do. One more question.
No. After you, we are going to the people.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, in your manifesto, you highlighted that there was going to be a national sports policy. And part of what you propose as part of infrastructure development would focus on upgrading the University of Education Sports College into a modern sports university, offering training programs in sports, related medicine, science, sports management, administration with campuses around Ghana. How do you intend to do this? And what do you intend to achieve? What's the end goal for this particular policy?
Well, the end goal is that currently, as we speak, we do not have professional coaches for a lot of sports discipline. Most of them are either former practitioners of the sport. But you see, there's a difference between a practitioner and a coach. You may be a practitioner that may not be a good coach. If you are a practitioner and you are added some training, it makes you a better coach. Converting the college to a university status means that you are improving the standard. So you can train persons in all fields, including even sports medicine, how to give care, sports psychology, sports nutrition. Because if you are going to participate in a certain competition, there are some foods that necessarily you would have to be taking, and even the timing of your feeding and training must all be done in a way that will help the athlete develop. So the college is already there. It has a lot of facility, just that it's been left to ruins. In the last 8 years, nothing serious has happened there. But the current director...
I'm just curious, why? Why has that happened? Why is it that we've had ministers, the ministry, or the sports ministry has not gone out of existence in the last 8 years? So why is it that attention has not been given to the college?
I think it's a worrying question. It's lack of interest. And it is because maybe the mindset of government was that, like we are just doing it for doing sake. They don't see it as sports being a development something and can contribute so much to the GDP. The 1.4% is doing now is way low. It can contribute so much. And if you see sports as a tool for development, as an economic tool, as a tool of engagement, as a tool of improving our health and well-being, you will not leave your only college that is expected to train professionals and even serve as a camping point because it has some of the best best facilities. But we would work on it. We will improve both the accommodation and the training pitches for all kinds of sports, work to convert it into a university and have allied campuses. For example, the Botema facility that was constructed as part of our All-African Games could become one of the satellite campuses, and we would have some others maybe spotted at various zones. So we mean to do that. So we can have, when you now have a lot of professionals, then identification of talents, training the talents from its infant stage. You see, because of my background also, and I want to give this example. When you plant a tree, well, at a tree, a seedling, let me call it a seedling, is the MPP that say tree planting when it is seedlings that they are planting. If you plant a seedling and you want the seedling to branch in a certain way to spread out, you don't wait for the branches to mature beyond a certain level before you begin to bend them towards the direction you want. The same thing applies to sports. If you don't identify the talent by a certain point and start training it, it will not reach the level that it's supposed to reach. So if, for example, for a particular sport, by age 12, you should start some routines, and you don't start, and it takes all the way up till 16 or 17 before you start, you will not be able to reach the level that you should reach when you are peaking. So it is important to train more of these professionals and have them out there to help these processes.
Our women don't want to be left out, so they have sent a message, and I'll take you through it. So the Black Queens have qualified for this year's Alcon tournament.
After not being there
for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And consistently, they have been handed the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
They want me to ask you, what will you do for them to ensure they go to Morocco comfortably, have enough preparation, and attempt to deliver the trophy for Ghana?
I think the mainstreaming is going to be part of our policy. Our women, truly, I salute them. They've done quite well at the various levels, even where the men were
they were the first to qualify for the World Cup.
Disappointing as the women were doing that good. And we will generate a lot more interest. And the state, and for that matter, the ministry, will equally show much more support to women's football and games that relate to women at all levels, more than possibly it has happened in the past. And I can assure them that once given the appointment, ultimately, I will liaise with many other institutions and bodies to make sure that they are not left out of the support. We would have to generate a lot more love also for the women's games and rally persons to at least be around and to watch. Now we are very lucky and blessed also as a country that we have a vice president that is also a woman. And so much more interest. You can imagine if they are playing and they have her there, that they can equally see that, for the first time also, we have a woman at this level. Let's see how we can take advantage of this great thing that has happened to push that agenda. So I can assure the Black Queens that they will not be left out of